Oh, there's no explosion. I didn't put the ready for action thing on. Right, we'll go back. Hold on. Shh.
Rubbish.
Ready for action!
Hello, everybody. There we go. There we
Hello,
are.
everybody. How are we?
I faffed around. We're now in Discord rather than Skype. So see if that makes it makes anything better apart from that false start. So do let us know if the... Yeah, we're all square at the minute. I'll try and work something out with that. Let us know if our audio and video is all lined up, or if you can't hear somebody or anything of that nature.
Andrew says no new jumper. I couldn't remember whether I'd worn this one before, Andrew. So I did put it on specially actually. But, okay. Wolfman Gas doesn't like it. My voice is synced with my video.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's a good start. Hello, everybody in internet lands. We've got lots of people on again tonight. As usual, it's all good. I think we've got the usual crowd in. We've got Matt Collins, Andrew Marlowe, Anthony Tittenser, Timothy Greaves, Mr. Moore, Wolfman Gaz, Ildefonse Lazard. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. David Henderson, Lizard Queen. Hello, Lizard Queen. I can't remember if we've seen you post before, but hello and welcome. Jason Newell, the Trooper. The Trooper! One of the best names ever. Mr. Marlowe, I think already said. Yongjin96. Timothy Greaves already said. I think we're starting to get around. John Grant mentions online as well. And I think that's everyone. Hello, everybody.
Hello, John.
Hello, hello, hello.
So, Lizard Queen, have you got an island like the Lizard King had? And do you, are they across the bay from one another?
And if not, is that...
Do you not get your own island? Do you just get a beach? How does that work?
And if not, is that just because of the patriarchy that's causing this problem that stops you from getting your own island?
Lizards are terribly patriarchal. Maybe.
They are. I don't know. I don't know. Never met any lizards. I'm going to play around a bit whilst we're streaming tonight to see if I can get anything better with audio and stuff.
So there must be. It's not a Tyrannosaurus Regina, is it?
Sorry?
Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Oh,
it's
okay.
Not Tyrannosaurus Regina, is it? It's Tyrannosaurus Rex. Regina. I said Regina.
I'm just thinking, why is Robin talking about dinosaur vaginas? I mean, normally that's like at least 45 minutes into the show.
So we're talking about the lizard men tonight, are we? And we on the Pateron Discord we were talking about how orcs breed. So I thought maybe we were going to talk about how lizard men breed. I don't know.
Oh,
Sorry,
okay.
Lizard Queen. You derailed us in the first 2 minutes.
Sorry to talk about your vagina like this. Very, very, very inappropriate. What happens if I put that on there?
Don't speak of lizard affairs with outsiders. Is that because you're all having it off with each other? You don't like to know. Is that what you mean by lizard affairs?
I'm not sure that's what they meant. There you go. Look, I've got a little. I've got the. I can put the Bernie circle up. There you go. That looks quite crap. I'll do something with it. Don't worry. I'll sort something out for next time.
You need to I need to kind of push up there, mate. No, it's not right.
So here we are. We're here again. It's Tuesday already. I don't know where the week went from last week, but also at the same time, it feels like it was a million years ago.
Yeah, both of those are true. I mean, I almost feel like we just did these last night. But at the same time, we've also been kicking off our Patreon competition. And that feels like it's been going for ages, even though I haven't played any games yet.
We're already talking about kicking people out because we're like, they haven't played any games. Oh, wait, I haven't played any games.
You just need to crank me up a bit, apparently. I'm not sure what that means.
Crank Robin up a bit.
Take some speed.
Who said that? Who said that? Who said that?
Wolfman Gaz.
Okay. Gavin Scott says he will not be able to attend, but that's fine, Gavin. You can catch up later. I'll try and crank Robin up a bit.
Cheers, Gavin.
There you go. Look, people can see me cranking Robin up a bit now.
I've been cranked up.
There you go, Robin. Consider yourself cranked.
Okay.
You were. I don't even know what we're meant to be talking about tonight now. We're just talking absolute shite.
Lizard Queen, I think. No, but the
No, dinosaur vaginas.
No. The new I can't remember what they're called. Savage Orcs.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then we were just going to talk a little bit about the Vanguard meta, I think, such as it is.
Yep, we were indeed. That's correct, Robin. Well done for getting that right.
Thank you.
That's exactly what
I started for 10. I watched University Challenge for the first time in a very long time last night, and I am I know nothing. It turned out.
I don't think I'd ever bother trying on that one because I know it would just be an absolute waste.
Yeah, well, lockdown quizzes have become a bit of a family thing, and I thought, I might do all right, but no. All I can say is that there's some really clever young people out there.
Some very,
I've
very.
disappeared, Pete.
Ah.
All right, come on back. Well, I keep on my YouTube feed. I keep fading in and out. Is that happening to everybody?
What, the audio or the video?
Why Discord? Checking for update. Anyway.
Sorry, everybody. Didn't mean to make us go blank there. Yeah, we're not blank anymore.
Was that you?
That was me. Yeah, I was trying to fix things. Everyone's going video.
He's trying to censor me, people.
Fake news.
Yeah.
Yes. So let's bring up the Orruks, shall we? The ugly Orruks. Let's just load them up and see what I can do. Everything's gone wrong. Let me just put that back. There we go.
Well, I have to say, I'm apart from the cards that are going to come into the game, I'm not really looking forward to these guys.
I'd say this dude.
That might put me in a minority.
I'm not particularly looking forward to these guys. I mean, this bloke. Someone pointed out on our Pateron that he kind of looks a little bit Blooded Sayic-esque, but I think he looks like a worse Blooded Sayic, to be honest.
Yeah, reasonable. I mean, I just don't like him. I just don't. I hate sort of saying that about people's work, but I just don't really like the models at all. They don't excite me or incite me at all.
I don't know if it's the paint job again, because I find that the models that they get painted for, when they have these like promo shots, the paint jobs seem to be absolute dog shit. I think we've got at least, I'd say, half a dozen patrons that can paint this model better than this picture makes it look. Easily half a dozen.
Possibly so. But
I
it's
mean,
not even the paint job for me on this. I mean, the Goshorn Hunt, I remember we've talked about that before, but the Goshorn Hunt, the paint job didn't do them any favours because the models are brilliant. But I don't know. It's not even that the model isn't very good. Just the Warband just doesn't interest me that much, which I feel. Yeah. I suppose they can't all interest me, but I don't know. So I'm more interested in the cards.
Yeah, I'm definitely more into the cards for this one for me. The Orruks themselves, they're not doing it for me. I loved the last season Orruks. I loved Morgoth's Crushers, despite the fact I haven't really had a chance to play with them very much. I absolutely loved those ones, but these models leave me cold, and I've never been a Savage Orruk fan in general anyway. But for me, I mean, looking at this model... Yeah, and I think just looking at this model, the paint job on it's atrocious. I mean, I'm obviously sitting inside my giant glass house throwing massive stones everywhere, but it just is crap.
Well, as I said, I don't like not being polite about people's work, Pete, but clearly not an issue you think you have an issue with. I don't think it's that bad personally, but it just... I don't know, that the whole Warband for me is just a bit flat, I suppose, because we have not long ago had Morgoths, and they're, to me, in my not particularly knowledgeable way, these don't feel very different, and I would like to have seen something different. And somebody else has said today in Patreon that the Orcs are very similar. There aren't very many interesting flavours of Orc. Like, you've got plenty of flavours of...
You got mint choc chip. You got choc chip.
Chaos have very distinctive flavours, but the Orcs, the flavours aren't particularly distinctive at all. I mean, to me, unless you know the lore already, you can't really see any difference between the three bands, really.
Well, you have some that are like, you've got ones that are in giant yellow armour, and then you've got ones that seem to be running around in their bedclothes, and that's kind of the only difference.
Exactly. Yeah. I would go with that. And I also, there's a lot of people commenting in the comments that the other models from Chasm have been so good that these do look a bit vanilla in comparison.
Yeah, because, I think that's part of the problem.
The starter set models are great. The Kagra's Ravagers are really good models. They're a bitch to paint. I've started painting mine, and I've been painting Star Wars Legion miniatures and some Crisis Protocol miniatures, and they're much less detailed. I started to paint these Kagras Ravagers, and like, oh my god,
There's detail
they look
everywhere.
amazing, but painting them just it's doing my head in. But I didn't even do any today, so unhappy was I to carry on.
I've even noticed that if you look at the model itself, there's a little dot of just an errant dot of brown paint on the arm of the model. I mean, come on, GW, it's just crap. It's just crap. It's a beauty spot. It's an Orruk beauty spot.
Yeah.
It's just a bit rubbish. I don't like it. Also, what's going on with the jaw? I mean, the jaw has been turned into like an axe, but it's like the wrong side of the jaw or something. I don't know. It's just, I don't like any of it. Don't like this model. I'm not sure I'm going to like the Warband, which means they're probably going to be absolute ace Warband to play.
Yeah, probably. I'd be interested to see what they come up with. Do you think we're going to see war tokens being repurposed? It feels like a nice synergy, but also feels a bit of a shame. But then I don't really mind. I'm from two minds to it. In some ways it feels a bit lazy, but in other ways you think, well, actually we could probably do with a bit of things using the same rules, because there's plenty of rules in the game now. We probably don't need any extra ones.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea, actually.
I'm on the fence about that. Sorry?
I said that's not a bad idea, actually, reusing some of the rules that are in the game rather than just throwing more rules into that pot. I like the idea of that happening, just because it means there's less chaos and confusion going on. You don't want to end up with a game which is meant to be quite simple and streamlined, and then you throw in one or two extra rules with every single season that comes out, and then by the time you get to season 6 or 7, there's just crap everywhere. You've got traps and poisons and quarries and hunters and hunger tokens and the primacy token and Christ knows what else going on, and it's just going to be confusion. Yeah,
it's an interesting the way the game evolves. It's interesting, and people have talked about how Hunter and Quarry hasn't only really just come into its own now with both sets of Beastgrave and Chasm. You've got these hunger tokens which are underpowered. You can't really use them at the moment, and they kind of come in a bit piecemeal. I mean, maybe if they were doing the usual release schedule, maybe we wouldn't feel like that, because I'm guessing Ravagers and the Starstalkers would have come out together. Maybe they'd have made it more, they'd have made a bigger impact. But having said that, I keep jumping around from point to point. But having said that, I really like this kind of almost like steady, almost like tube train arrivals of Warbands. It's really good, and there's always some news on Warhammer Community, and you've always got something to look forward to, keeping that hype train going.
The thing is, though, they're gonna run out of hype soon, because it's like,
yeah, that's true.
They haven't got many.
Hype,
well, no, but for Underworlds specifically, because it'll be like they've done all the warbands, they've shown them all off already, and they haven't even released the second one yet.
No, that is true. There's one left, isn't there?
There's two. Yeah. So they haven't actually shown off, because that was the other thing, obviously, that they kind of alluded to in that release with the Orruk here, is there's also this silhouette, as it were, which doesn't give a lot away, but I mean, we obviously already knew it was the Ossiarch Bonereapers, as they're called. But it doesn't tell you a lot about the model, like how big it's going to be, or... I do like the pose, though. I like that sort of standing still, holding something in both hands.
Like executioner, isn't it?
Yeah,
really?
Very much
He looks
so.
like a big beast model.
Yeah, I'm trying to size him up against the other bases. I mean, he looks bigger than the Orruk.
Yeah.
Unless the Orruk's on a bigger base and he's on a smaller base. Sorry?
Base size is similar. Base size is similar, it looks to me.
Yeah, could be.
It's hard to tell, isn't it? It could be very far away or really close. Mark Reynolds has that interesting, which I'm not entirely sure I agree with. He says this season feels a bit like they're just filling in the gaps in the range, no real passion. Hoping next season will be do something different, more like D&D Adventure Group rather than just AOS units. It would be quite interesting actually to have a mixed, almost like a foraging, an actual proper warband of people. That would be quite interesting. But I actually think that they're positioning the game to be more interesting going into season 5. We're concentrating on the Vanguard meta at the moment, and the game it's a very limited pool of cards, but the game feels more interesting than it does playing with the Chasm cards. I think Arena Mortis has really skewed the meta. I don't want to keep banging on about that. It seems to be my current favourite thing to talk about. But I actually feel like it's once Beastgrave's gone, I think the game's going to have lots more interesting and varied cards in it. Well, it won't have more, it'll have less. But the cards that were left will be more interesting and varied. So I feel like they're actually positioning for season 4-5 to be the best pairing yet.
It's interesting. One thing we were talking about reusing some of the functionality from the previous Warband. One thing that makes me wonder about how they're going to continue things is obviously they released some poison cards. No Warband used those intrinsically. They were just some ploy cards, and there was an objective that went with it. They're a bit shit. In another season, GW can pretend that poison never happened and just forget about them. A bit like they did with the I can't remember what they're called now. You needed 6 of them, and then you basically won the game, and then they banned it straight away. Relics, a bit like relics, so they can just.
Yeah, well, everything comes and goes like that, doesn't it? The tomes come and went. The lost pages.
Sort of.
Are they gone now? I can't remember. I'm lost. And they were Beastgrave, weren't they? Lost pages.
But they added in hunters and quarries. But there were warbands that specifically had the hunter and quarry keyword, so they had to keep. They've got to keep that in. They've got to keep creating cards that utilise that. Just like when they created casters, they had to keep adding magic in because they had casters. If they didn't have any spells, then they'd be shit. So they've done that. Then they've got this hunger mechanic. Now the vampires definitely use the hunger mechanic, so that's another thing they're going to have to keep in future seasons to keep that warband relevant, or else they're going to basically make that warband like completely useless because they won't have any cards that they can use that hunger mechanic on, or unless they're good enough without it. But then it seems a bit crap that they're creating a mechanic like that. And if every time they add a new mechanic like this, and like the primacy token again, I don't think, and people can correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure if there are any warband specific cards that utilise the primacy token yet. So if they decide to, in another season or two, they can just go, bollocks, we're not going to bother with the supremacy, the primacy token stuff. So they can just stop doing cards that reference it and phase it out to start to streamline things again. But it's interesting if they keep adding these things in each season after season, they're not going to be able to sort of rotate them back out again, and that's going to start to cause them.
It's built-in obsolescence, which I think is probably true. I think.
Sorry.
I think they probably. Mark Reynolds reckons it's built-in obsolescence, so they can kind of just. It doesn't really matter. I don't think they care too much if stuff rotates out.
True. Yeah, could be.
Doesn't matter. You can't play it anymore. Somebody else raised an interesting question, which is, do we think Vanguard will be picked up for competitions in store? I reckon it probably will in GW stores. I would assume, having gone to the effort of creating it, they might make that the kind of way to play in store.
It's weird though, because their stores, they don't tend to support Underworlds that much in store.
No, I know.
It's not a big seller, so they don't have very much room on the shelves for it. So they don't tend to really do that much in the way of competitions in stores with it or anything like that.
But
it's a weird one.
The bigger tournaments in sort of bigger game stores, I feel will probably stay championship. Which I think is a shame actually, because I quite like the Vanguard meta, as I've said. So I think it's a really good way of getting people into the game, and it doesn't reward people who've been in. It doesn't reward people who've been in for longer. It doesn't reward people who can buy everything. And I think it's. I don't know. It just feels more interesting to me, or certainly I think it will do when a couple of more boxes have come out. I think it'll be really solid then.
Yeah, I like the fact that you've got a much smaller pool of cards to choose from, which when you're trying to make a deck can be absolutely torturous when you're just sitting there going, oh my god, I can't even make like 6 surge cards for my objectives here. And I know there isn't a limit to surge cards, although we have put a 6 card limit on our surge cards for our AOS tournament. There are no.
In the rules now. That's why it's not in the.
I'm not sure there is, because I asked the Oracle, Jason of Underworlds DB, and he said there isn't a limit. So.
No, but I think it's now hard. It's not in the Vanguard rules, but it's hard coded in the rules. If you see what I mean.
Yeah, I see what you mean there, but I think that's not tournament rules. because there's other things that take precedent there. So I don't know, to be honest, whether there is or isn't.
I'll fight you.
So, but
I mean,
I definitely like having a much smaller card pool, and it kind of forces you to rely on your warband cards a little bit more as well, which I quite like.
Yes. Sorry, I tuned out there. There was some kerfuffle outside the door, and I didn't quite catch what you said.
So we had some comments. Now Matt says that his local GW store person was told that they can't run tournaments, but I know that my local GW store did run a organised event to promote the latest Warband when it came out last year. I can't remember which one it was, but it was shortly after Beastgrave came out, I think.
Wormspat, didn't you play Wormspat?
I did, yes, that's a good point. Yes, I took Wormspat and did terribly with them. I didn't do that bad, actually. I didn't win, so... But, yeah, I don't know really what the rules are on their stores. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
Matt, how many times did you ask them? Did you keep asking them over and over again whether you could have a tournament? And they went, Matt, we're not allowed to have tournaments. It's just a theory.
Yeah, Matt, the head office guy came. Wait a minute, I've got a call. Sorry, is that Jarvis? Yeah. Oh, I can't run a tournament. Oh, okay. Well, Jarvis said I can't do it. So, I sometimes think that the stores just say, "Oh, we're not allowed," because they do mean I can't be fucked. They're all tiny, though, aren't they, Matt? He says his store is tiny. They're all tiny. All GW stores are tiny.
Yeah, the one at Guildford, you can barely swing a thrapnel in there.
Very good.
Yeah, and knocking something over.
I mean, I like it from a point of view that it gets newer people into it. For people who don't want to have to collect all of the interim seasons, they just want to come along. They can just pick up the latest warbands and the latest season. Very low start up to the whole thing, and they can just jump straight back in.
We're freaking everybody out by being the wrong way.
I know. I can't do anything about that. It doesn't work. See, I can only change focus.
Matt was upset when he arrived.
I can't do anything about it, people.
Yeah, we didn't think it through. We decided to try Discord so that I wasn't talking like a badly dubbed movie, but we've caused more consternation, I think.
I don't know.
It's like you're trying to remove
the thread. Just saying, the option's there.
I'll go.
We don't like change.
Well, you missed me challenging Pete to a fight, but as somebody pointed out, we can't meet. Let's do with like fusel sticks.
Just massively far away from each other. Nah. So has anybody else? I mean, you can't really ask people. Have you? Has anybody played any tournaments? Because obviously COVID, most people aren't playing anything apart from what's online, and most of what's online is going to be like Championship because everybody wants to get the maximum experience out of it. Apart from obviously us, and we're running Vanguard. Yeah. Although we are running a slightly. Go on, sorry. I was going to say the Trooper has asked, but the Vanguard, he likes the idea of being able to use his other warbands other than just the current seasons. Yeah, that's what we're doing in our Patreon tournament. There is one small downside to it, which is some warbands have their own restricted cards, which they can take with impunity. Yeah. So there are some warbands which I guess are therefore stronger than they might otherwise be. So for the Grimwatch, because there are no standard restricted cards in the standard Vanguard set, the Grimwatch are free to take their restricted cards as freely. Yeah. And obviously the other warbands, so the newer warbands haven't got cards that have been restricted. Now whether that means that Grimwatch have an advantage or not, I don't know. But arguably, the Grimwatch cards are restricted for a reason. It's interesting that there's no supremacy now and stuff like that. There's no conquest and things along that line. So warbands like the Chosen Axes that have their own version of conquest, and Grimwatch, for example, who have their own, or Despoilers who have their own version of supremacy. Suddenly, that becomes a much more enticing card to take but it's a warband specific one rather than you normally just take the generic version of that instead.
Yeah.
Yep, hold objective X is gone.
Vanguard
There's no
says
1 to 5.
no idea when there are only two. Yeah, I agree with that. It is a bit of a daft idea when there's only two. There's only two warbands, but very quickly there's more.
Yeah.
Then it's okay. I think it'd be interesting to see in a normal year when people are playing all the time whether they might sort of start the new Vanguard season at Christmas or something when there are 4 warbands rather than 2. Potentially they could do that, couldn't they?
Yeah, I think playing it when you just got the start set, you're going to have... It's going to be... In some ways, though, I'd quite like to see how it would shape up in that situation. If everybody could only take the warbands from the starter set and then the starting cards, would one warband become obviously the better choice out of the two? And I think in that situation, it might...
Yeah, I mean, I think... I know in Nightvault, I certainly felt that out of the box, the Thorns were much stronger than the Curse Breakers.
Yeah.
That meta would have quickly established itself in a all Vanguard tournament. I don't know in this one. I think my Armies feel like they're easier to play. Whether that makes them better or not, I don't know.
I think that they've got the slightly better cards, the slightly, dare I say, easier inspire conditions, because you've only got to roll 1 success on a defense dice and they inspire, for example, whereas the Slaanesh, obviously they need to they've got, of course, those 6 wounds, and that can be a tall ask, although you could just not bother doing it at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Vanguard with just 2 warbands can be a bit...
You have more control. The flip side of that is you have more control with the Dread Pageant. You can work towards it, whereas you can't really. You can pay the law of averages, but you could get a situation where just nothing inspired if you're unlucky. Or you might be really lucky everything inspired, but you can't plan for inspiration like you sort of can with Dread Pageant. Although I think it's quite tough.
I wonder how the Axis would do in the Vanguard world, because there's a lot less push cards and distractions out there now to stop those dwarves standing on those objectives.
Yeah. Yeah, I think No Beef mentioned that there are only 2 surges though. They've got 2 of their own surges, which is probably tough.
But then I don't know, many of the early warbands probably have that many surges. You want to probably have that many surges too. Skaven, I think, have probably got very few good surges either. Who, sorry?
As we know, sort of making Hrothgorn has got 8, making him a good choice.
Yeah.
If you were playing that way.
Yeah, I think we've got a Hrothgorn player in our tournament so far. Not going to shame them, but it's an easy choice.
Yeah, Mark says, with the exception of this year, they hit 4 bands within 2 weeks. That makes 4 war bands within 2 weeks. That makes Vanguard much more viable, assuming they go back to that schedule. Yeah, I don't know if they've all been as quick as 2 weeks, but they've certainly all been less than 2 months. So yeah, you very quickly get 4 war bands out.
Yeah.
And playing. The Ace Grave was very fast, wasn't it? Although, was that Grimwatch and Rippers? No, that was later, wasn't it? But yeah,
it was.
They followed up quick. I think they have to follow them up quickly anyway, even for the championship method, because you've suddenly got a very considerably smaller pool of cards to play with. So they for the whole health of the good of the health. No.
Yeah, for the good of the health of the game.
For the good of the game generally, they need to have get cards out there quickly.
It's May. Matt was asking which month is it that they have a double warband month. It's May, because Kagra's Ravagers didn't come out till February. They were meant to be out in January, I think.
Right.
So they didn't come out till February. The Lizardies are due in March, so they must. I'm hoping they'll be coming up for pre-order soon. And they're doing more nearer towards the beginning of the month, maybe. I don't know. April is the Crimson. Are they called the Crimson Court again?
Crimson Court, I think. Yeah.
Definitely looking forward to those. And then May is the Ossiarch Bonereapers and the Savage Orruks. Yes, Anthony, Grimwatch came up for Rippers. I think somebody mentioned some of the ones that there was a supply problem with the cards or something with Rippers, so they couldn't bring them out at the same time. They had to bring them out later on or something like that. I'm glad they didn't delay the Grimwatch coming out. Although, some ways, if they delayed the Grimwatch coming out, the Grand Clash wouldn't have been so Grimwatchy, maybe. No, because Rippers were out by then as well, weren't they? So
we're out. Samurai Bone Daddy. Matt Collins is called the Bone Reapers.
I'm not a massive fan of the Bone Reapers. I like everything about them except the heads, that janky big grin that they've got. Just don't like that.
Straight out of Nagash, isn't it?
It's, well, I don't know. Even Nagash's clown model wasn't as bad as that, I feel. Jason Neal says more like Savage Orruks. Very good. It's just all a load of Orruks. We were discussing this in the Pateron Discord today about AOS and their Warband and the armies, and I personally just don't like a whole army of models that look very similar, especially when it's things like Fire Slayers. It's like you can only do so many different things with naked flamey dwarves. So you've got like naked flamey dwarves with big axes, naked flamey dwarves with 2 axes, naked flamey dwarves with axes on a big chain. It's like they all just look pretty much the same though. And it's kind of like that across the range.
It's actually kind of a legacy army sort of holdover. Some of the, the newer. I don't play AOS, so I don't even follow it anymore. But like the newer ones, like the fish elves, I'm particularly thinking of, they have weird and wonderful things. They didn't just have. They have more flexibility and more visual interest.
They didn't look that different.
Fire Slayers kind of were left over, weren't they, from the end times?
A little bit. They were kind of like look, we've reimagined Slayers and now they're all on fire. But then I think they quickly realised, crap, there's only so much you can do with a dwarf on fire. It was just, but I find most of the warbands is like the chain rasps. It's like you can have the army, they're all like just spooky ghosts, slightly different spooky ghosts. They look fantastic, but they don't look. Once there's a whole army of them, it just looks a bit dull. And I preferred the Warhammer fantasy battle times where you'd have some skeletons and some zombies and some spooky ghosts and some bats and some mummies and
going on with that. As a Empire human army person, I definitely agree with that too. I like all the different types of unit. Okay, they're all humans, but they all had different jobs to do.
Yeah.
Dead was kind of similar.
And I assume that the they probably all got different jobs to do in AOS as well. They all look the same. So there's just no visual difference there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jason says he remembers the days when they introduced the whole Slayer army concept and it was really boring aesthetically. It was just very dull. Just lots of the same thing over and over. But it kind of works. It kind of works in Underworlds because there's only like 5 or 6 models, so you can make them all samey enough, like they did with Morgoth's Crushers or Rippers, Snarlfangs, that kind of thing. They're all the same, but they can, because you've only got like 3 to 6 models on average, you can make each one a little bit more characterful without having to go too off-piste about it all.
Matt says you can still do it by choosing the Grand Alliance of Death and getting to mix and match. If you like.
I'm guessing though that means you have to buy about 6 books.
Oh yeah.
And it makes everything shit because all the rules where this then helps that doesn't work anymore because nothing works with the other, despite the fact it's all fucking dead. No. My skeletons couldn't possibly gain any benefit from those skeletons because they're a different tasting skeleton to the other skeleton.
Slayers always work best as a small elite unit rather than a big army. Yes, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely. They kind of, it doesn't, as an army, they don't actually make sense. I mean, I guess it's going back to the sort of old lore. So I don't know how they rebranded it for AOS, but it's kind of like actually the whole army of people who are basically kamikaze suicide soldiers doesn't really make a massive deal of sense.
No, well, in AOS they're not Slayers anymore. They're called Fire Slayers, but they're not Slayers in the same respect anymore. They're like mercenaries that just will do stuff for gold, as they decide to call it, because gold isn't IPable enough, so it's got to be gold.
What's this? Gold.
Brilliant, that's what we call it, and we can IP that. What'd I say?
Yeah, okay. So they took what was interesting about them, took that away.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then they gave him Bernie hair.
Right.
Hair's on
okay.
fire.
Yeah.
And that's like it. It's like, nope, still shit. Sorry. You've taken the only good thing away from him, made him shit.
I don't know if it's evolved a lot since the game first arrived, but I've just never been able to get into it. It just doesn't interest me that much.
Yeah. But that's good. But that's what I find I don't mind about Underworlds, is that Underworlds, they can take that aspect, like the Fire Slayers, the Chosen Axes, and they have even managed, though, with the Chosen Axes, that there's 4 models, and you still can't tell which one's Vol and which one's Mad Magrum and which one's Tefk half the time. Which one's which?
Not peculiar to that warband. I have trouble with all of them.
Some I find are easier than others. I always get Null and Ushcore mixed up in the Beastborn warband. Always get those two mixed up, and one's considerably better than the other. Well, considerably. One of them gets Ensnare when they inspire or something like that. VT Jake. Hey guys. Hello VT Jake. Welcome aboard. Thank you for joining us. What does everybody watching at home struggle with warband identification wise? Which warband does everybody struggle with? I always struggle with the Fire Slayers, but I can mostly tell almost every other warband on site, I think. I'd probably...
Oh yeah, Lady Harrow.
Oh geez, yeah, Lady Harrow, that's a good point. That's a good call.
TTS is quite impossible.
It's just good the fact that when you hover the mouse over the model, it actually tells you what it is. That's the only saving grace of it there. Nameplates, of course.
The Blade Coven girl get a bit confusing to me. Anyway, your nameplates is sort of problem, but yeah, the Blade Coven girls get muddled up. The Grimwatch, VT Jakes just said the Grimwatch definitely, and I always used to get Na'vi and Turosh muddled up.
I don't mind the Grimwatch so much because the models were like, one's got the bone armor on, and then another guy's got trying to think of the two that kind of look a bit similar. But most of them ones, like the Butcher's got the 2 hooks and he's quite sort of identifiable. Mollog, yeah, I can never remember which one's Mollog in that lot.
Rastus and the other one.
I was going to say the Thorns, but actually you don't have to identify them for the most part, and they've all got the weapon which tells you which one's which. Like, that's the Axii Chain Rasp, that's the Sword Chain Rasp, that's the Mace Chain Rasp, and that's kind of like the only difference. But Lady Harrow's, I think, is definitely one of the toughest to identify the individual models with. I think I would
definitely. Lady Harrow is the worst. The Condemners aren't great. In fact, for a beginner set, that the Condemners and the Lady Harrows wasn't the best choice.
For supposedly a standalone game, they picked some of the worst warbands to make that with, I feel. Absolutely impossible to tell apart the models and stuff. I think I might struggle a little bit with what they're called. There's Dower Kragan and there's the other guy, the God Blessed in the latest Chaos Warband.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's because we haven't played the game physically yet. Well, I was trying to paint them, and I thought I want to paint one who's not the leader. Right, which one of these isn't the leader? It's not the wizard lady. Which of these 3? They're all so heroic. But I don't know which one it is now. I had them all made and sprayed, and I was like, I don't know which one I want to paint.
I can only remember that one's called Dower Kragan, and that's about all I can remember. Oh, Razik's the other one. Razik the God Blessed.
Sounds like he works in accounts, though, doesn't he? No offence, Jeff, if you're watching.
I'm probably going to struggle with some of the lizard men because they looked a bit samey from the picture we saw of them. Because there was like five skinks and a Saurus, so it was like not 100% sure there. But I'm trying to think of any other warbands.
Be okay.
Yeah, you might be able to spot him. How can you tell?
The vampires are very, very.
They're very different.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think actually what other warbands there are that I really struggle with.
Actually, I don't necessarily. I don't actually know if I've played them, so I can't really say I've struggled with them. But I don't care who the other Orruks, Morgoths. I don't care which one is which.
But they're quite easy to tell apart. At least there's one with the massive two-handed weapon, and then there's one with the 2 one-handed weapons. Garrix, you can't tell Garrix apart, VJ. How'd you How can you not tell Magor's Fiends apart? One of them's a dog.
Paint Battle Roll is off. Good night, Paint Battle Roll.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in. I mean, Skellies, obviously you've got the three petitioners are very easy to tell apart because there's Mr. Crawley out the ground, Mr. Dramatic Pose, and Mr. Fur Coat. Very, very easy to tell apart.
Those days.
Yeah, back when we had enough time to form loving, affectionate bonds to all the different models and come up with nicknames for them. Gone are the days.
Months can go.
Yeah, well, there are some warbands I don't think we've played more than maybe 1 or 2 times since they came out. Crushers probably one.
You're right. Crushers, yeah. I mean, to be fair, Crushers came out at exactly the wrong time. But yes, Crushers, we haven't played very much. We haven't played Molluck that much.
No, that's because we hate him. Although
we haven't played, somebody just mentioned Fast Riders. Played Fast Riders. Probably did play them in Nightvault, but I don't think we've played them since Nightvault.
Have we played I remember we played Fast Raiders versus Magors at one point. I don't remember when we last played them though, but yeah, I mean Fast Raiders are one of those warbands that have kind of just become quite dull. I can't think of them. But then there's a lot of other warbands. I mean, we haven't played Champions in how long? I don't think Severin has.
Chat with his son. Are you going to link them in, Anthony? Go and have a chat.
Targa and Arnold. Jason Newell says he gets mixed up.
Yeah, doesn't matter. Danglebro 1, Danglebro 2, but yes, yeah, they can be a little bit. But they've got quite distinctive poses.
Yeah. Yeah, the Targor pose.
Our last Molluck game, which was pre-Arena Mortis, was a really good set of games.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed those. So,
that was
but at the moment, I don't think I'd play it on the channel because I don't think it'd be very interesting.
That was excuse me. That was Molluck versus Hroth, wasn't it?
Molluck Hroth, yeah.
T-pose Targor. Like it. Matt's just pointed out the doors of Cain. Left ear in the other one. Well, that's it. The other one's right ear.
Left ear and right. Yeah.
I'd quite like to play them a bit more.
The Blade Coven.
Yeah.
The problem with playing the Blade Coven is that they're very, very squishy, and when it doesn't go very well, you very soon end up with nothing left, and that's a bit soul destroying.
And their inspire condition is bloody awful, depending on who you're up against. It can be fantastic or terrible.
You've got to kill somebody or wait till the third go.
Yeah, and if you're up against like Morgox or something like that, and then you're like, oh good, I've never
Morgox is just like dashing your brains out on stone. Playing against Morgox, it's that much fun.
I'm trying to work out why Morgox for 3 fighters have 5 wounds apiece, but like most other 3 fighter warbands only have 4 wounds apiece. What's the difference there?
Power creep.
Well, yeah, basically, I mean that's the only thing I can really come up with is just power creep. But why are they 5 wounds apiece rather than 4? I mean, what's the actual reasoning for that?
Yeah. Deck building and 2 easy / hard conditions. 2 main reasons you stop playing the game. Says VJ. Interesting. Yeah, inspire conditions are funny. Some are great, some aren't. Some are hard, some are difficult to do, some are easy. And then there are some that is it worth trying to do it? We always have the eternal debate as to some warbands whether it's actually worth inspiring at all.
Yeah.
Generally, I would say it is.
I think
it always feels like when you're playing anyway.
Some warbands, the inspire condition, whilst not necessarily hard, can really affect your playstyle, like Fast Riders. It's like, oh, we've all got ranged weapons. Yeah, but you still got to run across the board and get right up next to the other guy to inspire. So it completely...
Bizarre.
And the axis is like, you need to be able to place your objective tokens such that you can head forwards whilst also standing on objectives, because you've got to get on them or else you're not going to inspire. And the axes really do need to inspire. But then you've got other warbands like Grimwatch. It's like, cool, I just need to stop you getting in my half and I'm going to inspire, and you can do that I mean, that's easier to do, I think, than some of the other things, and that kind of you can. That one as well, especially the Grimwatch one, really forces your opponent to change their play, because your opponent might not be thinking, I'm going to charge into my opponent's half. Their play might be, I'm just going to sit back, and then suddenly, oh, I'm up against Grimwatch, I've got to charge into their territory now to stop them inspiring, and suddenly that really makes a difference to what your opponent has to do, and it can completely fluff up their tactics.
Yeah. Yeah, Eyes of the Nine I do enjoy, with Kacharik's only chance of getting inspired is if he's standing next to Waterless when he casts a spell.
Yeah.
Just so you desperately don't want them to get involved in anything until they're inspired. At the same time, might have to. Just cast a bloody spell. Yeah.
Matt says he thinks Agents played Crushers versus Coven. It was a mismatch. It was definitely. I think Crushers are just the natural enemy to the Coven, and it's very one-sided.
We played it several times.
With very similar.
We played it several times, didn't we? We played out of the box. We played with cards, and every time the outcome was the same, because they're just so tough and hit pretty accurately. Even uninspired, they're reasonably accurate, and they do enough damage to take out most of the more Blade Coven.
Yeah.
So yeah,
there was someone said
even more disgusted.
Yeah, I think that's Jason was saying that Morgoths were super effective out the box. And I think it's because they had a lot of ploys and objectives and things that played into that war token mechanic, and the mechanic itself was actually quite easy to achieve, especially with the ploy cards really supported it. So they had the whole sort of package, if you like. It all worked together for them, and they became much more effective out of the box because of it. Whereas some other warbands like Nurgle, for example, they were quite subpar out of the box because their objectives, their faction specific cards, didn't really support them for the most part at all. It's like,
No, and the
go on.
Sorry, the Blade Coven, similarly, their kind of shtick was combo, but actually out of the box in particular, they didn't have very many things to support that, and there aren't very many reliable objectives that go with them. So they didn't really. What certainly the combo stuff doesn't support their inspire condition, whereas everything that the Morgoths are trying to do supports their inspire condition, and they get objectives for doing it along the way as well. So they really do synergize well. If you can synergize well with yourself, then they do.
Yeah, Jason says that you need to debilitate Morgoths to beat them. Poisons came thrown against them, but the problem is because Poisons was shit against most. Well, it wasn't great against most other people. You didn't take it. It was a bit like what happened when Mollog first arrived on the scene. Nobody had this almost single fighter warband to have to contend with, so you could happily gear your warband up to take on most people and you'd be fine. But then Mollog came and we're like, oh, none of the tricks I have work against Mollog. But Mollog's like, I work against everyone because everybody's a nail and I've got this big hammer. So you could just steamroll. Murray says Morgoths felt like Garrick's right out of the box, very powerful steamroll. I mean, Garrick, I don't think I've ever heard him described as powerful steamroll.
Yeah, Garrick was fast, but yeah, quite again squishy at the beginning.
Yeah,
I'd like to play with Garrick, but I'd be disappointed. I feel like they ought to be okay, but they're probably not because nobody plays them.
I think they do quite well in our Vanguard setup that we've got going because they've got quite a few nice ploys and
cool factions,
yeah, they've got some very nice faction cards. I've currently got 3 different warbands that I can't decide which one I want to take to our Vanguard, but I've got to decide by Thursday because we're playing our first game.
We are playing our first game. So what are your choices, Pete? What are your choices? Why don't you open it up to the floor?
Well, it's going to either be Garrick, Chosen Axes, or what was my third choice? Magor's.
Oh, okay, so all old school.
All old school.
Old school.
Because I just
playing you, I think you ought to go for Magor's or no, not Magor's. I think you ought to go for Garrick's or Chosen Axes. I think Magor's are probably the best of the 3.
The problem with Axes is that they're very, very slow.
Yeah.
Very slow.
Blade Coven, yeah. Mark suggested Blade Coven. I'm taking the Despoilers, I think, to the tournament. I have actually created a deck which gives us advantage over any of the other warbands that exist. I did toy with Blade Coven, but I'm going to play Despoilers. I just thought it'd be fun. I've never played them before, so I thought I'd give it a go.
That's what I thought. I've never played. I don't think I've ever played Axis on the channel. I might.
Right.
No, that's a lie. I played Chosen Axis once. We played Chosen Axis mirror match, and that's about it. I think.
Back in the days when we played mirror matches.
Oh yeah, back into the day. Troop says, "What? No worm spat?" Well, I thought about worm spat, but then I realised that they're a bit shit.
Well, they haven't got, because we're playing this Vanguard format. They haven't got the spells to support them, have they?
Yeah. Yeah, that's going to be part of the problem with them, and they also haven't got other. I don't know about worm spat. I mean, now you said worm spat, Troop. I'm like, worm spat.
Skaven.
Well, I thought I'm going to retire the Skaven for now because I love them, but I suck with Skaven. Always have. I don't think Skaven play my play. Sorry?
Mark says he's liking the Despoilers more and more. Yeah, I think they're probably better in Championship than they are in Vanguard, maybe. But they've got some decent faction-specific cards. They lack a little bit on some other cards at the moment. It's quite hard. But I think any warbanders, the people who are in this tournament will probably tell you, the pool card pool is so small. It's quite hard to get 12 reliable objectives.
Although I guess Despoilers have got they've got their own faction specific supremacy, and they've got their own faction specific play 3 ploys.
I keep saying that, but I'm not sure they have. They've got their own temporary victory.
It's called Despoilers.
Oh, okay. Isn't that temporary victory? Isn't that their own temporary victory?
I thought it was
But they've got cards which are good when you've killed quite a lot of people, as long as you're not all dead.
Yeah, and they can be anybody's. Doesn't have to necessarily be yours. Mark Grove says Skellies are brutal now. They might be brutal in Championship with all of the Arena Mortis cards, but I reckon they'll probably be quite shit in Vanguard.
They get some extra bonuses, don't they? From they can play even more of the Arena Mortis cards.
Yeah,
because they've got the raise mechanic. 29 warbands out. Matches only happen at the top tourney level. Yeah, Mark, that's a good point. I mean, we just thought when we first started the channel back in the day, we thought that the mirror matches would be of interest to people. You know, particularly like I think we played Gits on Gits because we thought that would be insane and really good fun. And did we play Guard on Guard? Yeah, like we did. Just because at the time it was the only way you could fill up all the starting hexes. But nobody watches them. Which
no one
kind
cared.
Of interesting.
No one cared at all.
No.
It was all for naught. They definitely did worse than our. But I say they did worse. I mean, they probably got more views back then than our videos do now. But no, there we go. Despoilers surge. Score immediately after an activation if your warband holds 3 or more objectives. It's even better than supremacy because you've just got to hold 3 objectives at the end of an activation.
Yeah, it's temporary victory, isn't it?
No, because temporary. Sorry. Yes, you're right. I'm talking shit. Anyway.
It's all right. Don't worry. We're used to it.
I was thinking temporary victory was. Right, I know his game plan.
They've got some good cards to support it. They've got the one where you can push 2 fighters, 2 hexes as well, haven't they? So they have got the options there. Which is quite nice.
They've definitely got more flexibility. Although you need to make sure that you use that the turn before, obviously, because you can't use it and then score because you're out of sequence. But so Despoilers.
You can use it in your opponent's turn and then power step, and then have your turn and then score it.
Yeah,
which is quite good.
Yeah, I reckon Despoilers could do quite nicely. I'm now going to have to try and come up with a Worms back deck to see how I feel they're going to do. But I still don't know which one of the 4 I want to pick now. Whether it's Magor's, Garrick's, Chosen Axes, or the Wormspat.
Captain Kaboom says he's hoping for Morgok and his lads will come competitive in Chasm. I think they're pretty competitive, although I think maybe Moloch edges them on the big guy front. I think they are. pretty strong. I mean, the Vassal tournament, not Vassal, Straight Out of Shadespire tournament we commentated on, Tim ground his opponents into the dust.
Smashed them.
Warbox.
Yeah.
And they were very, very strong. I don't think he came up against anybody who was particularly good at countering Warbox. I mean, the Godsworn Hunt is just it's a similar breakover situation. They just break on them and can't really do very much.
And in the final, he came up against somebody who had never played against them before, so had completely misjudged on the tactics.
I've forgotten now what warband he was playing.
It was Rippers.
Rippers, oh yeah. Which again, I think is a potentially tough matchup, especially if dice rolls don't go very well early on. BJ, it's strange that Gits on Gits didn't get many watches. I thought so too. I thought the possibility of having two Snurks, so to speak, going around the table would bring the punters in, but it didn't.
I definitely remember that game going terribly for me because I tried so hard to get Snurk to do some stuff that I wanted, and he did everything that I didn't want him to do. And I think you did the right thing, which is you chose not to bother trying to use Snurk. You did a load of other stuff, and was much more effective. Yeah,
I think you have to practice quite a lot with them to get the best out of Snurk. I've never really utilised Snurk very much, apart from standing on objectives.
Well, I think that's the way to use him, really, which is a bit of a shame. I think he should still have a mandatory scatter. I think if you don't activate him first, you should have to scatter him at the beginning of every round.
Yeah, I'm slightly surprised actually that and I suspect if they designed him now, they might say that he couldn't hold objectives.
That too.
Because it's lots of people holding objectives, but he doesn't really count as kind of like holding it. I wouldn't have thought really. In fact, I remember playing you and thinking, "Oh, I can't put you on the objective because he can't hold them."
And then realising, So
it does seem a bit counterintuitive, especially with cards like Cryptic Companion and stuff like that. And there's quite a few cards that he gets bonuses for that are, there are a few negatives for him.
Because he's one of the few fighters who he has three dodge, doesn't he, to start with?
Yeah.
So you can get the upgrade in Chasm now, which is +1 defense and -1 dice on your attack rolls, and I don't care about those attack rolls, so I'll have the 4 dodge, thank you.
That kind of thing. That's one of the sort of snaggy interactions that come about in the game that kind of can end up breaking it. But I think in the case of Snurk, it's not too bad.
Snurk, to me, he feels like he should have been one of those fighters, which was he can't take upgrades, he can't hold objectives, but he has to be scattered at the beginning of every round or something like that, just to create that chaos that a fanatic should be generating. It should just be that he has to do that every time. Or if you don't choose to activate him first, then your opponent can activate him on his turn instead. Something like that.
Yeah, middle wall defense is brilliant for him. I can't remember which one that is. Is that the one?
That's the +1 defense. It might be. Okay. Might be that one actually.
Dominant defender.
Yeah, that's one of those. Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense that he can take upgrades and stuff like that because he's a fanatic. He's just random. Yeah. So I feel like he shouldn't have been able to take objectives, and he should have to have had some kind of mandatory scatter at the beginning of each row. You have to activate him first or something like that. Just to really.
They really want to shape it better up. They should bring in Warhammer 3rd Edition Vortex of Chaos, and just have that. Just wiping out fighters.
Bam! There we go.
that shake things up. Maybe taking out half your own warband as well.
Mark Reynolds says prefer if he can't be pushed. I think he should have got that as well. I think he should be. He can't take upgrades. He can't hold objectives. He can't be pushed by ploys, things like that. It's just so many things I think shouldn't. Sorry.
He'd be hard to distract in real life, so to speak. He'd be hard to distract.
Exactly. That's kind of what I feel like. He should just shouldn't. Sorry.
Or confused. I mean, what crazy bastard would try and confuse a spinning ball maniac?
Exactly. I mean, Stalag Squid came out and he changed things up a bit in that he can't be pushed or anything like that because he can't be distracted and all those kind of things, and he sets up anywhere on any hex. I just feel like they could have done more with Snoke, but then I guess maybe they didn't do that because there's already so many other different things going on with them, with the scurry mechanic and the squigs and all that kind of stuff.
Well, he's not too OP either, is he? Because he is so random. So you can't. If you could build a reliable, attacks out of him, then I think he would be. But actually, although he's quite tough to kill, you can play around him, even though he is tough to kill.
Yeah, I mean, if you put him right near the front, and then sort of set him going, as it were, he can be quite a bit of a roadblock in that situation because you just don't want to go for him. You don't want to stand too close to him because it could almost be, as long as your dice don't suck as bad as mine, almost a guaranteed 3 damage if someone's standing right next to him.
I don't do what I did at the Grand Clash and forget to inspire
him. He can take weapon upgrades. Can he not? I thought he could, but he can't use them once he's inspired. He can't make attacks.
Then maybe I didn't think he could, but maybe I'm wrong.
Let's have a look. Let's have a look at the Warband cards. Warbands. The Gits. Let's have a look on Underworlds DB. What does it say?
I will just remind everybody that we have got, if you haven't entered yet, we have got a competition going with Xenos War Games. This is the last call for it. We're going to draw the winner at the weekend, or winners at the weekend. So there's a video. We've done a YouTube video. You go and find it. Search for us. Find it. You just got to comment on there. There's 2 prizes. One is a full set of die Chasm. That's UK only for postage reasons. But then there's a separate competition for anybody in the world where they can win the alternative art cards, or alternate art cards, and the primacy token. That's from Xenos War Games.
Yep.
Do check out their website as well. They've got some great stuff. All sorts of games actually. They do their own resin scenery and things too.
Yes.
They're based in Manchester, Wigan way. And yeah, check them out. So Xenos War Games, check out our video, and so we will be drawing at the weekend, and then you'll be notified shortly afterwards.
Yep. So we'll be announcing that shortly. Do jump in there and stick your name in. As Robin says, make sure you leave a comment saying which warband you're most looking forward to, and mention whether you're in the UK or not, so that we know which draws to enter you in for.
You'll only be entered in the UK competition if you've written that you're in the UK.
Yeah. So it turns out Snoke can take weapon upgrades. He just can't use them once he's inspired, which makes sense.
Okay.
Because he cannot make attack or charge actions once he's inspired.
It never occurred to me to give him one. But maybe if you were trying to score there's since about 1 million cards now that you can for having 3 or more upgrades on you. So maybe you might do that at the tail end of a game. But it seems a bit pointless to do it.
Yeah. So you can, but you can't use them. So why would you, basically? Unless, like you say, you want that one, which is have a fight with 3 upgrades on him or something, because then he becomes a bit impossible to kill quite often. Mark asked,
do they'll ever introduce? Oh, go on.
No, go on.
Go on, you say it.
There's definitely more of a delay.
Do you think they'll ever introduce endless spells like a vortex or magical traps? They could be the yearly add-on release. I can see that they would do that. I feel like I don't want them to. But that's maybe just a knee-jerk reaction. But I feel like that is something they could do.
I reckon that they would end up being either so good that they would be auto-includes and then they'd get restricted and no one would take them, or they would be too unreliable and crap and then no one would take them. So either way, you'd end up with no one would take them.
Yeah, it'd be very hard to balance right, I think.
Yeah.
And then, which warbands could take them and all that kind of stuff. It's an interesting idea, but I think I don't think I'd like them to do it. Well, I don't know. Do they get used a lot in iOS players? Have any of your iOS players? I don't know. They seem like a cool idea to me, but then when actually then I decided it was just another annoying thing.
I just feel like, because in iOS, I don't know if I'm 100% right here, but the endless spell mechanics, they almost operate like regular units. They've got some special rules around them, but they almost operate like normal units. So there's nothing too much to think about on that one. But in Underworlds, they wouldn't behave like regular warbands and stuff like that. So there would be extra paperwork to have to manage, and I'm not sure I'd be a massive fan of that personally.
Where's this? I'm not quite sure what you mean there, Mark.
Where's what?
We say something that I don't know. That's what Mark says. Where's this? But I don't know what we said that prompted that question.
This is there. That's where there. This is what? Who's that?
He's getting very kind of metaphysical and existential.
Where is this?
25.
Where are any of this?
Why? Why is this?
But why? Yes. Not where, but why? Why is this? I'm looking forward to our Vanguard tournament games. If for no other reason that there's such a small card pool. I think a lot of people are going to have quite similar cards, so it's going to be hard to really build a really terrible deck. But by that I mean worse than much more terrible than everybody else's deck, because everybody's got such limited card pool. Everyone's going to end up with terrible decks.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't necessarily want to invoke James Corden into our chat, but I've just, for some reason, when you said card pool, then I suddenly had an idea that we should do card pool karaoke.
Try and come up with song lyrics using as many different card names as we can.
And then maybe if we were like really famous or whatever, we could get like famous Warhammer Underworlds players in, so we could have like Mike Carlin in singing, I don't know, Ready for Action, I suppose. I don't know. Driving around the streets of Sussex, Surrey, in our people carrier.
Can't see that ever happening. Can't see that ever happening.
No, neither can I. But, yeah. There you go. There's a daft thought for you for a Tuesday night.
Mark hasn't responded. I need to know, Mark. What were you talking about now? What was this? Did you find it? Were you asking?
Maybe he doesn't know where he is.
Where is this?
For being dragged into a new dimension and now can't respond.
Oh, the competition.
Sorry, Mark. The competition. There's two places. You can either find it on our Facebook page, comment there, or you can find it if you go into our list of videos. It should just be in there. I think. Probably only about 4 down. Maybe if Pete can find a link. Or
I'm
I can find a link.
just trying to find it now.
Try a link in the comments, because that's what the youth do.
The youth of society. I'm just trying to frantically now find. Here we go. If you search for Chasm primal, I would call it the primal token. It's not the primal token, it's the primacy token.
I can't get staff.
It's just shit, isn't it? Here we go. I'll paste it in the comments now. There we go. There you go. There's a comment. There's the URL for you. Jump on there, stick your comments in, get entered into the competition, and have a chance to win. And I said this last time we talked about this, and I'll say it again this time. Anybody who entered our previous competition for dice and bags and alt art cards and stuff, if you haven't got it yet, that's because I haven't sent it yet. So, and if you have got it, let me know. Yeah, if you have got it, let me know, and then I'll keep them. But I will try and get them sent sometime in the nearest future. But with lockdown and everything else, it's all proving a little bit chaotic to try and find the time to do that.
Yes, if you have got them, that'd be interesting. We would like to know that, because there's some sort of matter creator, or Pete's going to travel in time somewhere down the line.
Somewhere in about another 30, 40 years, I'll be sitting there. I'll suddenly go, oh shit, I didn't send those bloody things, and then I'll quickly work on the time travel machine, and then just hop back in time.
You wouldn't go back to the time travel machine, would you?
I don't know.
2020.
It's not the year I'd pick.
No.
I mean, maybe just go back every now and then and just go, it was this shit. Oh yeah, I should be much happier now. Now I'm allowed back outside again.
Of course, worse is the possibility that you might have to go back to 2020 because things were better.
That's a terrifying thought.
That's a cheery thought.
God. Jesus, now you've really done me in.
Right, and what else should we talk about? There's a preview coming, isn't there, this weekend? Anybody excited for that?
That's going to be...
Find out more about things. What do you think we're going to find out about? More about the Savage Orruks? Do you think we're going to get a picture of the Bonereaper?
I reckon they're going to be talking about the Lizard's Men's.
I think the Lizard Men mainly.
Yeah, because they're due out pretty soon now, I reckon.
Yeah. So
I can't work out what Lizard Men are going to do to the meta either, because right now aggro seems to be the game. Name of the game seems to be aggro, and I don't see the Lizard Men changing that very much. I know the Lizard Men's way to inspire is hold 3 objectives, but I just don't get the feeling that they're going to add much to the hold objective meta. I don't know, because
it's going to be hard unless there's going to be ways of winning that primacy token by holding objectives. Then maybe then get that, stop the aggro, cash it in. But I'm not sure. They're going to show off the Warband in full and show the Bone Daddy.
Is that what you reckon, Matt?
Yeah, you might be right. I'm trying to remember. Did they show much about Kagras at the last one, or did they show? Because they tend to show the models then, and they do a kind of Warhammer community showcase of the cards, don't they? So I think probably there isn't going to be much. Yeah, that's what Matt's just saying. These are meant to be shown off in the week leading up to their release. Yeah, I think that's probably right. Up to the pre-order.
Dave Henson says he's looking for. Sorry, go on.
Oh, no, I was going to say exactly what you were about to say. David's looking forward to showing off more of Quest, which is kind of why I brought it up, really, because I think we are tentatively excited about that. It's hilarious. I don't know if you have, Pete. I've joined the Facebook group for the Warhammer Quest, for the Third City game. One of our old role-playing friends is in there, actually chatted there quite a lot. But the amount of pointless speculation going on in there is just hilarious. I haven't got time to follow it all. But people are speculating like mad over what this game is going to bring. It's a funny thing, really.
But this then gets back to that problem that we've discussed before, that because everybody comes up with 100 ideas, some of which are insane, some are inane, some are ridiculous, and some are just amazing, when whatever it is finally comes out, that's it. It's now set in stone, and it doesn't matter if what has come out is better or worse than whatever has been mooted before it. Now it's real. Suddenly everybody's like, oh, okay, well, I'm bored with that, so I'm going to go on to the next thing.
Collapsing of infinite possibility down to one.
Yep. And as soon as that all collapses down, everyone's like, oh, okay, well, I guess that's fine, but I'm just going to go and get excited about the next thing that hasn't happened yet either.
Yeah. It's going to be a quest stream. Oh, quest-centric stream. Sorry, I completely misread that comment, Matt. I thought you said a quest-centric system. And I was like, well, yeah, that's kind of in the name. But yes, I think you're right. I think the stream will be heavily focused on Warhammer Quest. Maybe we might learn about when it's going to be around.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like us to be able to play it. I don't know how well we'll be able to play it. And I mean, it might actually turn out that it is actually crap when we get down to the functionality of it, and it's just a bit samey. I mean, I found Blackstone Fortress was a bit, after playing it a few times, it was kind of quite samey. It was just a slightly different variation on the same theme every time. Go in, kill everything, walk out again.
Yeah, and that is the problem with those dungeon crawlers. They do get samey. So that's my fear. The Blackstone Fortress looked amazing, had some great models, and the mechanics were quite nice. But it actually, at the end of the day, was just doing things in the right order so you could shoot the monsters, and it was tough if you happened to roll a bad thing.
Yeah.
And more monsters turned up. It didn't get much more complicated than that, really, in our games anyway.
Yeah.
And the out of game, for me, the out of game mechanics weren't that interesting.
No, they're a bit
buy stuff.
They're a bit random, weren't
they? Yeah. So we'll see. But it is always it's a tough ask for these kind of systems to have a good AI and then have a good non-human interacting, or not non-human interacting, one that's not created by humans on the fly to create an interesting out of game sequence. I think it's quite hard to do that. But people are trying to do it, so hopefully it'll be an evolution of what's gone before.
And it's that classic thing that if you're playing role playing games, RPGs in general, just doing dungeon crawls the whole time gets dull after a while, and it's just very much the same sort of problem over and over. So I think we need to accept that, you know, it's a board game, so it's only going to have so much in it. And it's just a question of whether what's in it is varied enough to keep you interested in it. And I mean, I quite liked Warhammer Quest, Shadows Over Hammerhall. In some ways, I preferred that to Blackstone Fortress, but I think that might be because there was a GM, so you had that element, that random element in there that, or not random, but you had that actual human AI moment where the human player, the GM, could actually go, well, I'm actually going to go over here and do this thing instead, because I know that's going to fuck you up a lot more than just charging headlong towards you straight into that trap that you just put down.
Yeah.
David says,
we were happy with it. I'm glad we had such a cool game. I'm looking at you, HeroQuest. Yes, that's true.
I mean, I remember playing HeroQuest when I was a kid over my grandparents' house with my cousin when he used to come over at the weekends and stay at my grandparents, and I don't think we ever played it properly, to be honest. But we played it and it kept us entertained for hours. So
that is an interesting thing actually about modern games. I felt like I've talked about it before, but you can get so much information about games and people are so quick to tell you what's right and what's wrong when you're playing a game that we kind of forget that when we were growing up that most of our games were played entirely wrong and were spent making up stuff, and that actually was where the fun was, when you started to make up stuff. And probably the people who get the most fun out of Cursed City and Blackstone Fortress are the people who basically have the time and the energy to make up their own stuff around what's happening.
Even whether it's good or not, if they enjoy it, they'll get more fun out of it than the... Yeah.
I mean, the stuff we used to make up was diabolical, but we just had great fun with it because we didn't have all the rules and the stats for all the models that you could buy. So we just made them up, and we made up narrative things for our Warhammer campaigns, which made no sense whatsoever. You know, our Warhammer battle campaigns, just basically just trawling over battlegrounds and trying to get to places and solve codes that my friend had made up, which had, you know, would probably involve knowing what a ZX Spectrum was. It didn't make any sense, but we just really, really enjoyed it. And I think we kind of, modern game, we kind of forget that actually, that we don't have to have everybody, not everything has to be created for us. We can create our own fun.
Yeah. I think part of that problem is the fact that as adults, at least, it's like, who's got the time for that? And the minute you then sit there and think, okay, let's, you know, I'm going to introduce my kids to this thing, and they immediately start doing, I'm going to do this. You're like, you can't do that. It's not in the rule book. And then you think, oh God, I haven't got any imagination anymore.
yeah, that's exactly it. And also, of course, we can go, if we want to go and watch exciting narratives, we can go and watch more than telly. Yeah. You know, pretty much 24/7, whereas you couldn't have that option. So the exciting narrative was what you made up yourself, and because you were a kid, it was just really exciting and really good. Whereas, you know, most of the fiction that's grown up around Warhammer Fantasy and Warhammer 40,000, even the stuff that's professionally created is a bit naff. So if I tried to do it, it would be even worse.
Be even naffer, even nafferer.
So yeah.
And there was, I mean, digital is another problem. Digital gaming is another big issue in that realm now as well. It's so much easier to get a fix from a computer game that you can just turn on and suddenly it's all there in front of you, like, oh my God, looks brilliant. I'm definitely very interested.
Yeah, well, I, as you know, struggle to play digital games, and I think that's because it doesn't turn me on. I think it doesn't hit the right notes for me, but I think I'm in the minority there.
It depends, yeah. I mean, I think I'd rather play a board game or a tabletop game around in a room with a group of people than play something digitally online. Because you get more of that connection, that human connection. I think a lot of the reason why a lot of us play these things these days. I mean, you know, we're men, we're adults. We're not men necessarily. We're adults, male or female or whichever. You know, we're grown ups who sit there using the word play with these models in serious sentences. You know, we're still being children because we're still playing with these things. A friend of mine said he just bought something the other day, and I said, you're never going to get to play with it though. And if you think of that out of context, it's just quite a weird thing for two grown men to be saying to each other, you're never going to play with that though. And it's just a weird thing. Well, not in the gaming model sort of context anyway. It's just remembering that at the end of the day, a lot of the time when we meet up for these things is actually because it's just for that social interaction, rather than thinking I'm gonna show off my tactical prowess with my army and smash my opponents. Just I'm gonna go around my mate's house because we're gonna make fart jokes for 3 hours and just have a laugh about shit.
And that's gaming in a nutshell.
Yep, pretty much it. It's definitely during.
Yeah, go along with that.
It's definitely during lockdown. Someone's mentioned about it's been okay during it's been handy during lockdown. It's definitely helped keep people connected during lockdown, and with the cam tournaments, the straight out Shadespire stuff, and all those things that digital and the interwebs has definitely helped keep people connected in that way. But I mean, the minute we can start meeting up to play again, TTS is dead to me. Just dead.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I'm trying to work out a way of getting you to have a month off work and just come around here and playing every day, so we can just record loads of content.
Maybe we need to do some kind of like a Kickstarter. Fund the agents to do a month worth of content, a game every day. Can you imagine the amount of content we could kick out if we just had like a full 9 to 5 sort of job? Just
Yeah.
be mad.
That'd be great. And I was just thinking, how little work could you get away with doing?
I get away with not doing a lot right now.
My job, when I worked back when I had a job, I could probably could have got away with about a week before anybody noticed.
The problem I have these days is because everything's digital and at home. There's just meetings like 24/7, like, and half the time I've got to actually have some input into them, which is a real pain in the ass.
That's no good.
Yeah,
Can't you get some stop breaks? Just get a soundboard, and you're at my house.
Just hit buttons like yes, no. I'll have to look into that. I'll get back to you. Not sure, but they all sound like James Workshop now. Hello there. My name's Pete.
Play is a lifelong thing. Play/recreation is life. That's what VJ says. That's a good place. You could have said that in 7 minutes time, VJ. A really good place to finish.
Yeah, that is it in a nutshell. And I think a lot of people get to a point in their life where they suddenly think, I'm too old for this now. I need to be an adult and I need to go and do adult stuff. And I think that's a bit sad, really. I think you've always got to keep that fun going, or else why bother, really?
Yeah, that's getting very deep. But I think there's quite a lot of pressure, especially when you're to grow up. When it's only when you've grown up that you realise that was shit. You don't want to do it. You regress a little bit.
Growing up was fucking stupid, and why did you ever do it in the first place? I do think that there's a lot less of that evident these days than there was. I think possibly when especially when like my parents grew up and stuff like that, there was definitely you're the adult now, no mucking around. You're not a child anymore. You've got to be a grown up and adult now instead. And I definitely think possibly with my generation that started to be less the case. So there's a lot more 40-year-old man children around than there were back then. I don't know. Maybe I'm making that up, but it just feels like it.
Feels like it. It's hard to know, isn't it?
Yeah.
Different generations feel differently about things. I know my parents very much were of the view, my mum in particular, that I should, do something and make something of myself, get a job in a bank, that kind of thing. And was very much anything I wanted to do was vaguely creative or off the wall. She was like, "No, you shouldn't do that. That would be terrible." And so but so it was probably. I've always wanted to fancy doing something like this. I know I don't get paid for it really, but this is living the dream with Pete.
My son has told me multiple times now, because he's got to pick his GCSE subject soon. So having those conversations about what do you want to do when you grow up, and I know when I was a kid, my parents were like, you've got to choose because it's important. You've got to decide now. You're making decisions for the rest of your life. What are you going to do? And I didn't have a fucking clue back then, and I don't really have a clue now either. But it's funny that I'm now turning around to my kids and sort of going, you probably haven't got a clue, and that's okay, because most people don't have a clue when they're 12 years old what do they want to be doing when they're 20 or 30 or 40. So, just pick some subjects that will be handy and pick some subjects that you're going to enjoy, and the rest will just happen as it goes.
Careers advice from Pete as well.
And he wants to be a history teacher. I'm just sort of sitting there going,
That's just so random. Mine, children have no idea what they want to do. So they don't want to play games with their dad, I know that much.
Ungrateful little bastards.
It's almost like they could sense that you'll enjoy that, and that therefore they just, I'm not doing that, no.
Yeah, no, don't care what it is, I'm not doing it. Look, kids, let's just go out and spend money. No, I'm not doing it. Don't want to do it.
So we'll see. I'm hopeful that my youngest will actually play Star Wars Legion with me one day. Because he's still big into Star Wars. He loves the models. And I reckon one day at the moment he's a bit young, I'll quietly just introduce a couple of rules at a time.
Just game. It's a bit like a gateway thing. Just keep sneaking it in there a little bit at a time. And yeah. I'm just reading some of the comments. Jason, you were saying don't let him be a teacher, it's a mugs game. I keep telling him that, but I'm hoping that maybe he might do all the subjects for a history teacher, and then he might become like a historian or a museum curator or something like that, because my wife's godfather, he's the curator at the Maritime Museum. He's the paper curator there. His job's fucking cool. He's like got access to all the stuff that they don't show you, and he had Ranulph Fiennes did one of his Arctic Trek things and found a book. So he went to him and said, I've got this book, it's obviously just a frozen block of ice, but there's paper in there, so can you get it out? So he had that, and he had to try and get all that unstuck and things, and that's a cool job, right? Which means...
Did you just stick it on the radiator? And then when the ice and melt, get back to? Yeah,
he could iron a couple of the pages out that were a bit creased. There you go, Ranulph. And Ranulph tried to open it up, and it was just one piece of... That's a cool job, right? Which probably means that you're never going to get a chance to do that job because it's cool.
Yeah. Lego. I'd like to work with Lego.
I remember
watching
a program where they were behind the scenes at the Lego. I think it was the Lego theme park, Legoland, and it was the people working there, and it was following them on their day-to-day stuff. And it started out by looking quite cool because they had the little workshop where they had just racks and boxes of every kind of Lego, and they got the chance to be able to design their own stuff, and they also had to work on maintenance and fixing other stuff. It started out looking really cool, and then very quickly you realised that's probably a soul-destroying job. You just got to do very specific stuff in the right way, or else Lego will fire you or whatever, and just...
No, I was thinking more in the design team. Designing Lego sets, that'd be a cool job, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I suspect because it's such a cool job, you'll never get paid for it.
Quite hard to get into, yeah.
Yeah.
The Lego interview test used to be to make a sphere. Cool.
So you just get a bit of blue tack and roll it into a ball. There you
go. That's what thinking.
Yeah, there you go. I have made a sphere. And then they tell you to fuck off. Get out. Now, David Hedson, I think, is an absolutely... I think he's completely not normal. He's nearly 40, doing the same job he was since 16 and still liking it. I don't know what you do. I don't understand that. I hate my job. I hate it. The trooper's off. We have kind of completely wandered off subject, but thanks for joining in.
Down to 26 of you watching, lovely people watching, but it is 1 minute to 11, so we're going to go home ourselves, trooper.
Yeah, I think it is.
You're a trooper.
You have been a trooper. Yeah, we really went off subject there in the end, but there we go. So thank you, everybody. Yeah, what can we say?
Bit of pancake day.
Yeah. Oh, I had waffles earlier and pancakes.
I have had so many pancakes today, with it being lockdown and half term. But I basically made a batter mix this morning and basically just been having pancakes throughout the day. It was great.
Just a massive vat there the whole time. Just whenever you're just getting a bit pissed off, there's just a pan continually heating, just quickly. Oh, not even bothering with the plate anymore. Just picking it up.
He's a lifeguard. Dave Henderson is a lifeguard. Cool.
I can see that being quite cool. I can see it being a bit dull
Watch
though.
the eyes game. I don't have time to watch games on the internet, Andrew.
We barely have time to play them, let alone watch them.
Yeah, I wish I had more time to watch all the lovely content made by all our lovely viewers and everybody out there. But it's really hard to squeeze it in. But I will try and watch it, Andrew. I promise.
We might have more clue what we're talking about if we actually watch some of the other content and listen to some of the other stuff.
I possibly so.
So thank you everybody for watching us. I don't know if the credits are going to work because I can't remember if I fixed them after last time. So maybe they will.
Not.
If they don't, thank you to everybody for supporting us.
The right way around, and your boxes are the wrong way around, which is just freaking me out now. And we're going to get that right next week, Pete.
I'll try.
We're not doing anything about that.
I don't know. I have literally not a clue. Depends on whether people prefer the fact that the audio and the video is now in sync again, or whether they'd rather have the fancy schmancy boxes and the out of sync audio video. I don't know. I'll try and sort something out.
Yeah, it's not so much the rings around our heads, but your boxes behind you are backwards.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I see what it's done there. That must be a Discord setting. I'll have to try and sort that out.
It's not right.
That's not right.
Okay.
Yeah,
mine aren't backwards.
That must be a Discord setting. I'll have to look into that afterwards. Very strange. Must be some kind of mirror setting in there. Anyway, I'll look at that.
Pancakes have been postponed till tomorrow. I'm intrigued to know why. But hopefully everything's all right, Andrew. Hopefully you didn't have an egg accident. Or...
Who says you can only have pancakes on one day of the year? Just have them every day. Pancakes every day. Right.
Your cardiologist might not want you to have pancakes every day of the year.
Well, it depends if you pay your bills. If you don't, he might not care. Be like, fuck it, you what you like. I don't give a shit. You ain't paying your bill, you can eat what you like, mate. Right. We shall be heading off then. Thank you all for joining us this evening on this random adventure. And hopefully next week we'll have a bit more to talk about. Maybe the lizard men.
Well, I've had the this week's online thing to talk about. We've had the fact that Pete and I will probably be out of our own tournament by this time next week, and we'll go from there. And
do check out the giveaway, and do check out Xenos Wargaming as well, because they've got a good store there going on.
Yeah.
Stay safe, everyone. We'll see you soon.